Welcome back to the channel. I apologize for this going out a day late. I had some conflicts yesterday that just couldn't get around, and didn't end up getting to my book review as I had wanted to. Anyway, today I want to review the book The Italian Secretary by Caleb Carr. If you look on the picture there, you'll see at the top that it says A Further Adventure of Sherlock Holmes. And you will also notice that this is a book by someone who is not Arthur Conan Doyle. So Sherlock Holmes, famous creation of Arthur Conan Doyle. He wrote several novels and short stories, and then if you actually know a lot about the Sherlock Holmes mythology and whatever else, then you'll know that Arthur Conan Doyle wrote Sherlock Holmes, kind of got bored with it, and killed off the detective. That's what and he famously went head-to-head with Moriarty, and at the end of it, Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes died. But then there was a huge public outcry at the time, and the demand to bring the detective back was so great that he eventually did so. And we have a lot more Sherlock Holmes that takes place after the supposed death of Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, this particular book, obviously, so this book was printed in 2005, and you will know that obviously Arthur Conan Doyle passed away way before this could be published, and so this is not an original Sherlock Holmes, because this has somebody else's name on the front of it, but it says Sherlock Holmes. Well, the Doyle estate approved this. They commissioned it as a short story, but then it was expanded into this novel. So this was done with the approval of Conan Doyle's estate, and so we have a continuation. I don't know if there's more. I'd have to track down and see if there were more. But on with the review. So let's see. The Italian Secretary. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, roommates, as you know, living at 221B Baker Street. They are contacted by Mycroft. Mycroft is Sherlock Holmes' older brother, and Mycroft works for the government. And there were two people, Sir Alistair Sinclair and Dennis McKay. They were working on renovating a medieval tower in the royal palace of Holly. I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but Holyrood. Apparently, it was the wing of the palace where Mary, Queen of Scots, had lived. And her secretary, David Rizzio, had been killed. And there were always tales of ghosts and things, and so there was a lot that was going on here that seemed otherworldly and ghostly. So Mycroft gets it into his head that there may be a plot against Queen Victoria. And as Mycroft is a government official, and he is charged with keeping up on the enemies of the state and finding out plots and all that other stuff. He contacts Sherlock Holmes to investigate this and figure out what's going on. And they have a whole bunch of things that are going on. So they go up to Holyrood, and Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, they go up to Holyrood, and they're on the train. There's a Scots nationalist, a red-bearded, it's called Red. He has a red beard, and he throws a bomb, and when they get to Holyrood House, they can hear a weeping woman, and corpses, and there's a pool of blood that never dries. There's an Italian voice that they hear. And so there is this supposed supernatural element. Now, if you've read any of the Sherlock Holmes books in the past, you'll know that Sherlock Holmes does not believe in the supernatural. And Conan Doyle, in fact, used elements of this in other stories. The Hound of the Baskervilles is a good one, where there was supposedly a ghost wolfhound that was terrorizing a certain family on the moors. So this isn't a departure per se from the way that Sherlock Holmes stories have been structured in the past. One thing that I think that some mystery writers do fairly well is that they will whoever it is that is the culprit, that is trying to steal the crown jewels or whatever, murder someone, whatever, they cover up their crime with supposed supernatural causes. And because of the superstition of the people involved in the case, they are dismissed because only a ghost could have done it, kind of thing. And so people then don't look for the mundane, and yes, it is a trope. And like I said, it can be done well. I think it is done particularly well in The Italian Secretary. There's a lot of that going around where, as I said, there are obviously this is a Sherlock Holmes. So Sherlock Holmes, and it was done with the approval of the Doyle estate. And if you remember, I did review Sherlock Holmes and Dracula a while back, and I did not like that one because, to me, Sherlock Holmes is such a staunch rationalist, realist, that the supernatural doesn't enter into it, and so this is much closer in what I've read of Sherlock Holmes. Now, I don't want to say that because the supernatural was injected into the Sherlock Holmes story with the Sherlock Holmes and Dracula, that's why it was bad. No, that's not why it was bad. It was bad because of several reasons. And if you want to find out more about that, please go watch that review. Anyway, back to The Italian Secretary. This felt like reading Conan Doyle. It felt true to Sherlock Holmes. It felt true to Dr. John Watson. And so I very much enjoyed it. There was a little kind of tweak at the end. I shouldn't say tweak because that would... but there was a little kind of nod at the end to the supernatural, which I felt was out of character. But it was one bit at the end, and that didn't necessarily ruin it for me. Whereas if it had been the whole thing, it could have. Once again, it's not taking a character and injecting it into a situation, that or into a... Because I could totally see a super or a Sherlock Holmes type character, or even Sherlock Holmes himself, in a more of a fantasy world setting rather than a real world setting, and there being ghosts and monsters and that kind of thing, and still being good. Because at that point, especially if it's Sherlock Holmes, you would need to be true to Sherlock Holmes. And I felt that for the most part, the Italian secretary did that. But again, having Sherlock Holmes in a world where there's monsters and ghosts and that kind of thing, that wouldn't necessarily ruin it for me. But again, please go watch the other review. I don't want to go too much into why I didn't like this. Anyway, I did like some of the things with the Italian secretary. I thought it was interesting that there was this mystery surrounding Mary Queen of Scots and David Rizzio. It's called the Italian secretary because David Rizzio was Italian, and he was Mary Queen of Scots' secretary at the time. And it's interesting that... So part of the mystery revolves around... this David Rizzio. He was Mary Queen of Scots' husband, and I forgot his name. It was let's see, where to go. Lord Darnley. So Lord Darnley was Mary Queen of Scots' husband. He was jealous of David Rizzio, and so he conspired to murder him. And they actually, Mary Queen of Scots was giving she was having dinner with Rizzio and some of her ladies in waiting. The conspirators came in, grabbed him, held her at gunpoint, and stabbed Rizzio to death. It was way more than it should have been. He was... they stabbed him 57 times. Yeah. Anyway, that part of the story actually happened, and I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look into it much more deeply than I have, but I think there's a lot of ghost stories about the old palaces and things, so it would not surprise me if there were ghost stories about this particular area of the Holyrood House. Again, I would have to look into it more deeply. But anyway, these were all these details were woven into Sherlock Holmes's investigation of the deaths of Sir Alistair Sinclair and Dennis McKay and what was going on. And again, it all ties back to Mycroft, who was having them investigate because he saw the potential for a threat against the Queen, and the Queen and the Empire being his focus. He did what he could to protect the Queen and the Empire. So he sent Sherlock to figure out what was going on. And I enjoyed it. It was very good. If you are a Sherlock Holmes fan and you've thought to yourself, I could really do with another Sherlock Holmes novel. Too bad Conan Doyle died before he could write more. The Italian Secretary is a good one to pick up. Again, I'll have to look to see if there are others that have been approved by the Doyle estate. But this one is a good starting point. Again, I thought that the story was woven together very well. The characters stayed true to their origins. But again, the little reference at the very end of the novel was, yeah, we could have done without that. Anyway, I did wonder, and this was kind of a speculation on my part. So Arthur Conan Doyle, when he was alive, he was very great friends with Harry Houdini, which was quite interesting. And he was also an avid spiritualist, if I remember right. He was very into spiritualists and mediums and all that kind of stuff from his during his time frame. And it's interesting to me that the supernatural is found in some of the Sherlock Holmes stories, and I've long wondered if the reason for those supernatural elements, obviously they were faked, because they were being used as a way to hide the criminal wrongdoings of the antagonists in the story. But I often wondered if the reason for that was because of Doyle's interest in the supernatural. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've read this one. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, turn on the notification icon so that you get notified when I release these videos. And again, I apologize for this one coming out a day late. Hopefully I'll get back on schedule for next week. Anyway, that's it for today. Until next time, enjoy what you're reading.